have to fear is
In war,
fear itself.
there is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we burn, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
You found your way to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live. Thanks for joining us today. It's Friday, so it's Good News Friday, which I always look forward to because I like good news. And if you don't get enough of it today, which you're going to get your fill, but if you want even more, go to our website, wallbuilderslive.com. Click on the archives section. We've got programs from several months back, and, of course, including those Good News Fridays. David, love Good News Friday. I know you got a stack we're going to get through today, but it's important for us to do this so folks know that there's a lot of battles being won out there.
There are a lot of battles being won, and that's what we really have a lot of fun with here. And quite frankly, we end up with the good news stories that people kind of scratch their head and said, where in the world did you get that? And I'm on a lot of media programs or other networks and whatnot, and people keep asking, where'd you guys get that stuff? And, well, we get it because it's on the news. It's just nobody runs with it. You know, all these stories get printed at some point on the news, and whether they get picked up by anybody else is always kind of an if. I'll point out that the Justina Peltier case that we've covered a number of programs, the girl in Massachusetts who's been kidnapped by the state up there, that the Boston Globe had written some articles on that, but nobody picked it up until Glenn Beck picked it up and made a big deal out of it. And then here came Fox and here came CNN and everybody piled on. And I've seen that a number of times. I've seen that if I get interviewed in the New York Times, suddenly I'll get a dozen calls from other newspapers saying, hey, we want to interview you too. And so there's just some that just never get picked up. And that's what we tend to do. We find these things. They're out there in the news. We have a great research staff, Christy Stedman, who runs the legislative side of stuff for us. She'll go through hundreds of articles a day and send us all sorts of good stuff. So there really is a lot of good news out there, and it's unfortunate that it doesn't get picked up and spread around by more newspapers. And I don't know if they don't like good news or if this isn't the kind of good news that they think is good news, but anyway, this tends to be one of the most popular programs on WallBuilders Live, and it tends to have a lot of encouraging stuff.
Well, one of the things I like that you do is it's a broad stroke. In other words, you don't just pick only political good news, or you look at every area of the culture. Good news coming out of entertainment industry, good news in education, good news in the courts, good news in some of the political things. A lot of legislative battles out there, and sometimes just even polling data and the attitudes and the education of the American people and where things are going. So the great thing is it's not just one area. It's a way for us to kind of keep tabs on where the ball's getting moved down the field, where we're moving forward in this issue of trying to make sure that we bring our culture back to a place of restoring our principles and restoring our constitutional republic. So I like that as well, and I love the fact that every Friday when we do this, I have no idea what you're going to cover. So it's as much a surprise to me as it is to our listeners out there. So what do we want to cover first for our good news?
We're going to cover some national attitudes. This is by way of a new poll that's out. And by the way, there are a lot of polling groups out there. There's the Barton polling group, and there's Rasmussen, and there's Gallup, and there's Pew, and there's ABC.
You would go there after I mentioned that we look at attitudes in polling. So now it looks like I did know where you were going.
Oh, was I not supposed to?
Yeah.
I forgot. We talked about that in the pre-broadcast that we don't want to talk.
All right. So
you actually did have no idea.
No
but that's
idea.
Where I'm going.
Okay, but you're pointing out, even before you go to specific polling, the fact there's a lot of different groups out there that do this.
And this is a poll on abortion, national attitude. This poll was commissioned by the Knights of Columbus. It was conducted by the Marist Polling Company, and it asked folks about abortion issues. And so this national poll, pretty interesting stuff. I'll just read through some of the numbers here. 83% of Americans believe that there should be significant restrictions on abortion, and that includes 70% of those who call themselves pro-choice. Now, that to start with, 83% want significant restrictions on abortion. And by the way, as they go through some other numbers here, they come to the conclusion, it's real easy to understand why the abortion industry does not like to use the term abortion, like women's health or they like choice or something else. But it's real clear that people do not think highly of abortion. Even pro-choice people don't think highly of abortion.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing. And then, as the pro-abortion people are always trying to make it, it's about the health of the mother and her choice on her lifestyle, etc. And so it's always kind of the mother against the baby kind of stuff. And I thought that this part of the poll was really interesting. It says that 84% believe that, quote, it is possible to have laws that protect both the health and well-being of a woman and the life of the unborn, close quote. Now, that's pretty significant when you have 84% who think that you can protect the life of the unborn and still protect the health of the mother. That's not at all what Planned Parenthood and others would argue with that the health of the mother is by killing the unborn. But 84% of the nation, and you and I have talked before, that from a political standpoint, when you hit the 80% mark on something in the nation, you're almost unanimous at that point.
Well, and they try to act like, in fact, they always throw out the terms extremist when referring to pro-lifers. Wait a minute. It sounds like 84% of the country's with us. They're the extremist in the very small minority.
Well, here's a part of the poll that shows that. Those who support the idea of abortion on demand at any point during a pregnancy, and that is the Planned Parenthood and the pro-abortion position, is any point that the mother decides that she wants to terminate a pregnancy, she should be allowed to do so. You know what percent of the nation supported abortion on demand at any point during the pregnancy?
It's got to be less than that 16% that was left, so I'm guessing maybe 5?
10%.
10%?
10%.
So 1 out of 10, 9 out of 10 are closer to our position than they are to Planned Parenthood.
That's right. Now, the problem is, I'm sure that this poll asked the question specifically using the abortion word. And other polls will ask it about health and about something else. They're not going to use the abortion word, but it is significant that this poll that used the abortion word, man, these are really high numbers, and quite frankly, they're higher than polling we see from Gallup or Pew or others who don't use these terms. But when you use the abortion word, man, people really do come out and they are not in favor of it and they're opposed to it, and that's good news for the nation. All we got to do is just get the terminology redirected and point out what the code words are that they're talking about, and the attitude of the people is certainly not behind abortion on demand.
No, that's fantastic news, and it probably explains a lot of the other good news we've talked about over the last year in terms of good legislation, a lot of pro-life victories, pro-life media, a lot of great things happening lately that wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for some of that attitude changing, which means, hey, folks are, pastors are preaching on it more. I mean, there's a lot of good things happening in the pro-life movement. We love talking about it on Good News Friday. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we actually got Kevin Downs with us. He's, you might remember him from the movie Courageous. He's in a new movie called Mom's Night Out, actually a producer of it as well. He'll be with us when we return here on Good News Friday on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. Often today, it seems that the federal government has become too intrusive into local matters, and federal micromanagement has now unfortunately become the norm in education, law enforcement, religious expressions, and even on what is and is not moral. Strikingly, the Founding Fathers had intended that the federal government never intrude into any of these issues. As Thomas Jefferson explained, taking from the states the moral rule of their citizens and subordinating it to the federal government would break up the foundations of the Union. I believe the states can best govern our home concerns and the federal government our foreign ones. According to Thomas Jefferson, the original plan was for the federal government to direct foreign affairs, but for the states and local communities to direct the domestic and the moral ones.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to the intersection of faith and politics. WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thank you for staying with us today. Our guest today, Kevin Downs. You've seen him in Courageous, plays Shane Fuller in that, produced one of our favorite movies like Dandelion Dust. Kevin, thanks for coming on today, sir.
Hey, thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
Hey, man, new movie coming out, Mom's Night Out. You're a producer and also have a starring part in it. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, Mom's Night Out is a laugh-out-loud comedy. It is it's just a wonderful film. It really started and originated after I did Courageous, which was an awesome film for dads and kind of lifting up dads in the home. And it was just on my heart. Felt like God put it on my heart to be able to make a film for moms and for women in the home and for the amazing job they do. But what a wonderful way to do it, but yet in a comedy and do it in a comedic setting. And so there's just a lot of laughs. There's a few tears, and women are walking away loving it, and they'll feel affirmed about the journey and the joys and the trials of motherhood and the wonderful journey of parenting.
I get it. So you're just getting even. Courageous was so great for the guys, you had to do one for the ladies.
Of course, because I've been married for 17 years. I got 3 kids and a wife at home that goes, "What about me?"
You're not stupid. Yeah, I get it. All right, man. So you got a star-studded cast in this thing. Sean Astin's in it. You got Trace Adkins in it. A lot of cool people.
Yeah, no, the cast is just amazing. I mean, the Irwin brothers directed it, and our vision was it's an ensemble cast. The script is set up that way. And so our vision was to really put comedic talent that really resonated with the material, and all of them do, from Sarah Drew to Sean Astin to Patricia Heaton, who's incredible in it, to Trace Adkins, and then, of course, some of my friends from Courageous, Alex Kendrick and Robert Amaya. It was fun to have them in it. Andrea Logan White is great in it, and so we just have a wonderful cast, a lot of familiar faces.
Yeah, I love Alex's pastor role. I mean, he's just real. It's a great way to come across. Patricia Heaton as well. I mean, it was star-studded cast, cool stuff. Tell us what is the timeline. When is this actually coming out?
Yeah, it'll be out in theaters May 9th, Mother's Day weekend. So coming up here really quick. Start making your plans now. If you haven't seen the trailer, go to momsnightoutmovie.com. Check out the trailer for it. The trailer's been playing in theaters. And it'll be out in theaters May 9th, Mother's Day weekend, at a theater near you. And just make plans to go with your friends or with your family and enjoy a night out.
And Kevin, it seems like with this now, with a lot of the movies that we're getting from our friends and Christian producers and whatnot, it's hard to get a lot of theaters, and so we have people call and churches rent theaters and that sort of thing. You seem to have pretty heavy distribution with this one. You're going to be in quite a few theaters. That may not be as big of a deal, or do you want people calling the theaters?
Yeah, sure. There's always, with any movie, it doesn't matter if you're a big comic book movie or a film such as this. It always, it always helps a movie when you've got a consumer base that's calling theaters going, "I want this movie." And so if you want Mom's Night Out and you don't see it playing at a theater near you on our website, just call your local theater and say, "Hey, I'd love to have this movie come near me." And certainly your voice will definitely get heard. But momsnightoutmovie.com there's a listing of all the theaters that we're playing in. It's playing in a lot of theaters around the country. So more than likely it's playing somewhere near you, and be sure to check it out.
All right, before I let you go, you're working on a new project called To the Wall. Tell us a little bit about that one before we let you go.
Yeah, To the Wall is a passion project with myself and David A.R. White, who's the producer of God's Not Dead, and both of us produced the film. We're both the lead actors in the film. It's just a wonderful father-son story about these two guys whose dads served in the Vietnam War, and they never knew him. And so you follow both storylines of the dads and the sons. The sons take a road trip to the Vietnam War Memorial to learn more about their dads and how their dads sacrificed their lives so their sons could have a life. And it's such an incredible story, very close to my heart, and will be coming to theaters later this year.
Oh, it's going to be this year. I was thinking it was 2015, so it'll be there in the fall.
Yeah, we're trying to coordinate and time it out with Veterans Day. So,
did I see Stephen Baldwin's going to be in that with you guys?
Yeah, Stephen Baldwin is in it. David A.R. White, myself, Rebecca St. James, and Candace Cameron Bure.
Awesome. Man, we appreciate your time. Appreciate the update. Hope to get you back again soon, and we'll get folks to the website. It's momsnightoutmovie.com. We'll have a link today at wallbuilderslive.com to make it easy on you folks. Kevin, God bless you, brother. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Back in a moment with David Barton.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. What is the purpose of government? Founding Father Oliver Ellsworth believed he knew. Oliver Ellsworth was a delegate at the convention which formed the Constitution, and later he became the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Concerning the purpose of government, Oliver Ellsworth declared, "The primary objects of government are the peace, order, and prosperity of society." Yet how were these goals to be achieved? Ellsworth explained, "To the promotion of these objects, good morals are essential. Institutions for the promotion of good morals are therefore objects of legislative provision and support, and among these, religious institutions are eminently useful and important." Founding Father Oliver Ellsworth believed government could never reach its goals apart from the help of religious institutions.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. Thanks to Kevin Downs for coming on as well and giving us some of the good news coming out of media. A lot of good movies coming out lately, actually, David. We could do Good News Friday on just some of the media, and this year's been a good year for movies coming out that are not just feel-good movies, but actually apologetics good movies, God's Not Dead, and others. So we could do good news out of the media as well.
Well, even if you look at last year, wasn't it Dr. Bayer who told us that last year there were more pro-family and fun, entertaining movies than there were in the 10 years combined before that. And they were box office smashes, too, by the way. Yeah. So this really is a good trend to see that this is continuing even this year as well. So that's good news.
And that influences the culture. I mean, part of the reason it's not only good because it's good entertainment, but it's good influence on, again, returning the culture to a culture of life and a culture of those constitutional principles. Yeah,
it is. Now, I've got some good news for you, and this is one of those where you'll need to prepare yourself. So take a deep breath. Don't fall out of your chair when we talk about this. But all right, are you ready for this?
I'm going to be skeptical of the source. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, you can probably already guess what the source is because we keep making fun of this source every time it comes up. But here we are again.
Did we used to call them the Ninth Circus?
Yes, we did.
Court of Appeals?
We did.
This is, I think this is already about 5 times just this year that we've had maybe more than that we've had good news out of the Ninth Circuit.
It is amazing how much we've had out of the Ninth Circuit. And you may recall a few weeks ago we had one on Good News Friday, and Tim was talking about it, and it came out of Hawaii. And you remember that the Ninth Circuit, I'm going to have to call them circuit rather than circus. The Ninth Circuit ruled that in Hawaii's
And to be fair, bro, we got to be fair to our listeners. Got to know for the first 3 or 4 years we did this program, I would say 80% of the bad news came out of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So that's why we give them a hard time. So anyway, go ahead.
You got to remember too that at the Supreme Court they were the most overturned circuit. In one particular year, 27 cases I think made the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court overturned 26 of the 27 cases that came out of the Ninth Circuit. And so that's why we called on that. And you may recall that even several years ago when Newt Gingrich was running for president, one of his proposals was to abolish the Ninth Circuit, which could easily be done. Congress can wipe out every single federal court in the nation except the U.S. Supreme Court because they're all creations of Congress. They're not creations of the Constitution. That's a discussion for a Foundation of Freedom Thursday. But nonetheless, that's why we'd given them such a hard time, because for years they were overwhelmingly the most overturned circuit court in the United States. But now they're going so much in a different direction. And so as we talked about in that Hawaii case, they had this may issue permit that says, well, the sheriff may issue a concealed carry if he wants to. And the Ninth Circuit said, no, you can't do that. It has to be a shall issue. That if someone comes to you and said, I want a concealed carry license, they meet all the requirements, you have to do that. Well, we've got one close to that comes out of California. And it deals with California's, the huge limits it has on both open and concealed carry. And it doesn't have a shall issue licensing requirement. And so the court has ruled that in California they have to have a shall issue, that they can't have a may issue. So now we're in California. And the Ninth Circuit I've said circus so long it's hard to say circuit.
Yeah.
The Ninth Circuit has actually come out saying for California the same thing they did for Hawaii, and that is you shall issue. And they quoted the Supreme Court in the Heller decision that the Second Amendment right, it's an inalienable fundamental right of all citizens to protect and defend themselves. And
you're kidding me. I have not heard about this, man.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean. This keeps being amazing.
It's beyond amazing. And now you're talking about, I was excited when Tim told me about the Hawaii one, but now you're talking California. You're talking 55 million people that have been, kept from exercising their Second Amendment rights, or at least in most counties in California. So for this, that's huge, especially because California is such an anti-Second Amendment, anti-gun state. Man, I hadn't heard this. This is great news.
Well, what's interesting is some of the other circuits have ruled on the other side of this. So this is likely to end up the U.S. Supreme Court again. We've had, in the last 5 years, 2 Second Amendment cases after going essentially 200 years with none at the Supreme Court. Now we've had 2 in the last 5 years. And so since the circuits are split on this one, but amazingly it's the Ninth Circuit, I got it right that time, Ninth Circuit that's on the right side of this thing. And so this may end up the Supreme Court, but that's great news coming out of the Ninth Circuit for the state of California.
All right, we'll be praying the Ninth Circuit does not get overturned in this particular case once it makes its way to the Supreme Court. Got to take a quick break. We'll come back and get some more good news here on WallBuilders Live. Red, White, Blue, and Green is a new reality show following the Green family around the nation, rediscovering the American principles that made us the most successful nation in the history of the world. You can be a part of launching this new reality series by visiting rickgreen.com and clicking on the Red, White, Blue, and Green tab. Here's a sneak peek from the pilot episode. Rick Green coming to you live from the Lone Star State of Texas, a beacon of hope and freedom to liberty lovers around the world. Today I'm thinking about why do we do what we do? Because everywhere we go as a family, when we're traveling and speaking, someone comes up to us and asks, where's the hope? Is it over for America? They genuinely feel like the stars and stripes are fading. I felt that. But when I look at my family, whether it's my son Trey and his drive to exceed expectations, or Reagan and his love for serving and teaching other people, Cameron and her determination to outperform her brothers in everything she does, or my little stagehound Rhett and his boundless enthusiasm. Through their eyes, I see a vibrant nation. When my children stand in the birthplace of the Constitution, or on battlefields where patriots gave their lives, I can see in them a rekindled flame of the American spirit. The future of my children's country is bright because it's built on the foundation of an incredible providential history. A history of patriots and pastors, entrepreneurs and freedom fighters, mothers, fathers, families like yours and mine, who chose to live like their nation depended on it. And it still does. So when people ask us, where is the hope? We tell them, it's in you. Each of us, every individual, every family, has a duty to fight for freedom and add our voice, our color, to the American dream. For our family, it's red, white, and blue, and a little bit of green. To learn more about Red, White, Blue, and Green, visit rickgreen.com.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. Good News Friday today. So we've been bringing you some good news from around the nation. We've been talking, we've been talking guns. We've been talking life. We've been talking entertainment. Got one more segment of good news. David, where are we headed?
I'm going to go to another national poll, and this one deals with the continuing decline in support for the health care law. Now, the fact that the support is continuing to decline is not the news, but what I found really interesting is why people are no longer supporting the law. And so overall, the national stuff right now puts the approval at 40% and the disapproval at 55%. So it is, it is dropping very rapidly. And of those that still approve the law, not surprisingly, 73% of Democrats still like the law. So that 40% that does approve it, it's Democrats, 73% of them make a huge portion of that 40%. When it gets to independents, only 39% approve it. And when it comes to Republicans, only 8% of Republicans approve the health care law. Now, if you take the law and where it is, and you say, now, why would people not approve the health care law? What I find really interesting is when you look at the top 7 reasons that people oppose the health care law. If we were playing a game show on this, and we're just playing that, and you name the reasons, what would you choose as top reasons you think people would not support the health care law?
Do we have some? We don't have the music to play in the background.
No, we don't. We don't have
show
this.
here. Man,
we don't.
Okay, all right. I'll guess anyway.
This is Family Feud, and so you got to clear the board here. See if you can clear the board.
Ding. Survey says.
Survey says.
Let's see. Individual mandate that I'm forced to buy even if I don't want to.
That's number one. Government interference, forcing people to do things, 37%. So that's the number one reason.
Man, I should be on Family Feud. Okay, let's see if I can do it again. I'm gonna go with freedom of religion, being forced to do things with our health care as a private company that violate our religious convictions.
That didn't make the list, or at least they didn't ask that question. So that's one strike.
Okay, so let's see. Lose my doctor. Don't get my doctor choice.
Interestingly, losing your insurance by Obamacare taking away your insurance, which you can say losing your doctor would be under that. That's reason number 3. That's 11%.
So was that one of those situations where they asked the people in the booth to decide if my answer was close enough that you give me credit on it?
That's right.
And they
losing
did?
Doctor, losing insurance. All right, we'll call that the same.
Okay, good. All right.
Ding, 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 ding.
Let's see. Let's see, other reasons not to like Obamacare. It's socialist. That would be my number one reason, but that's probably not on the list.
Well, that is reason number 7 on the list. I'm having to pay for other people's insurance for non-citizens and foreigners. That was 6%. That's the reason number 7. You're doing good on this.
So government bureaucracy, or how about the website? Maybe even just
website.
The bureaucracy.
Yeah, website was the number 5 issue, 8%. Not well planned, poorly designed, and website issues. That's 8%.
And just as a side note, I wonder if the American people connect that right now to it's not just that it's a bad website or the wrong company was hired. That's just government ineptness at trying to do something the market should be doing.
That's not government ineptness. That was really a very efficient display of government. That's better than they usually do.
That's true. Yeah.
That's
about
really
as good as it gets. It doesn't get better.
That's
it
right.
only gets worse. Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
That was maximizing government efficiency right there.
Okay, so I got 3. It wasn't too great. I think my team would have lost on Family Feud.
Well, let me go down them then. I'll give you what they are. And you actually got 3.5. But number 1 reason people do not like this is it forces people to do things and there's government interference with your own choices, 37%. Number 2 is it increases the cost and it makes health care less affordable. 21% do not like the increased costs that have come about as a result for their own health care. Number 3 reason they lost their own insurance as a result of this health care. That's 1 in 9 folks. It doesn't work. It's a big mess and it hurts people. That's 8%. It was not well planned. It's poorly designed and there's website issues. That's 8%. The president lied about the plan. It didn't do what he said it would do. You got half of that. That was 7%. And then the number 7 reason, paying for others' insurance, which is for non-citizens and foreigners, that's 6%. There's other reasons, but those are the top 7. And you look at that and you know those are pretty liberty-minded people. That's pretty sound reasoning for why they don't like it. And that's 55% of Americans versus 40% on the other side, so that's good news for the country in the way of attitudes.
No doubt. They get it. They understand. They see what's happening. They're learning how bad government is when it tries to do things in the marketplace. So all good news. Lots of good news from all around the country in different areas of the culture. Be sure and tune in to WallBuilders Live Monday through Friday, but make sure you catch those Fridays and get some good news. Thanks for listening to WallBuilders Live.
We stand undivided.